Right now, while you're sitting and watching this, your body is already beginning to change in ways that you cannot see or feel yet. Even though everything feels normal on the surface, deep inside your system, your internal flow is already starting to slow down slightly, and your body is quietly shifting away from its natural balanced state without giving you any immediate warning. And the longer you stay in this position without movement, the more your internal system begins struggling to maintain its normal flow. Your heart has to work harder to push circulation through pathways that are no longer supporting it efficiently, even though you are not doing anything physically demanding. The reason most people never notice this happening is because it builds up slowly, without any sudden signal or clear warning. But during this time, your energy begins dropping, your focus becomes weaker, and your system gradually shifts into a lower level of performance. And if this keeps repeating day after day, it does not stay temporary anymore. Your body begins adapting to this lower state until reduced energy, slower thinking, and constant fatigue quietly become your normal. Every time you sit for long periods, your body is not simply inactive on the outside, it is also beginning to slow down internally in ways that are almost impossible to notice at first. This is not a sudden change, but a gradual reduction in how efficiently your system operates, happening quietly without drawing your attention. Inside your body, your heart is constantly working to maintain a steady flow that supports every function you rely on. And this continuous movement is what keeps your system stable, balanced, and functioning properly without interruption. Under normal conditions, this flow moves smoothly and consistently, delivering energy across your system without resistance. And this is what allows your body to maintain its natural rhythm and performance. But when movement is reduced, this smooth flow begins slowing down in a subtle but important way. And instead of moving freely, your system begins facing resistance that disrupts its natural efficiency. As this continues, pressure begins building in areas where flow is no longer smooth, and your system starts working harder to maintain balance. At this stage, your heart begins increasing its effort to compensate for this inefficiency, and over time, this added strain begins affecting how effectively your system can function. As this condition continues, the flow inside your system does not stop, but it becomes weaker and less consistent than it should be. And instead of moving smoothly across your body, it starts losing its strength, making it harder for your system to maintain the balance it depends on. Because of this weakening flow, the amount of oxygen being delivered throughout your system begins to decrease gradually. And even though you may not notice it immediately, your body is now operating at a lower level than it was designed to. Your brain depends on a constant supply of this flow to maintain its normal speed and function. And when that supply becomes weak, the energy entering your brain is no longer enough to support it fully. As a result, the signals inside your brain begin slowing down, and communication between different areas becomes less efficient. And this directly affects how quickly you can think, react, and process even simple information. This is where your brain begins using more effort just to maintain basic function, even though nothing physically demanding is happening. And this creates a constant feeling of mental fatigue that does not go away easily. And the most dangerous part is that your body begins adapting to this reduced state over time. So, instead of recognizing it as a problem, your system slowly accepts it. And this lower level of function starts becoming your new normal. At this stage, your brain is no longer operating at the speed it naturally should, even though nothing around you has changed. And you begin noticing that your thoughts take slightly longer to form, your reactions feel delayed, and simple decisions start requiring more effort than they normally would. You try to focus on something important, but your attention does not stay stable the way it used to. And instead of maintaining a clear line of thought, your mind begins drifting, losing track, and struggling to stay engaged for long periods. This is where the mental fatigue becomes more noticeable, even if you have not done anything physically exhausting. And instead of feeling refreshed or alert, your mind feels heavy, slow, and constantly drained, as if it is working harder than it should just to stay active. As this continues, your emotional responses begin changing in ways that feel difficult to control, and small things that normally would not affect you start feeling overwhelming, making your reactions stronger and harder to manage. This is why your body begins to feel heavier than usual, even when you are not doing anything physically demanding. And instead of feeling light and active, every movement starts requiring more effort, as if your system is constantly running at a lower level. And the most dangerous part is that this state does not feel like something is wrong. It simply feels like your normal day. But in reality, your system is already operating below its natural level, and it has slowly adapted to this condition without you even realizing it. This is why you wake up in the morning and still feel tired, even after what should have been enough rest. Your body may have been still, but internally your system never fully recovered. And instead of starting fresh, your day begins from a lower level of energy than it should. This is why you sit down to focus on something important, but your attention does not stay where you want it to. Your mind drifts, your thoughts feel scattered, And instead of moving forward smoothly, you keep losing track of what you were trying to do. This is why your body feels heavier than usual, even when you are not doing anything physically demanding. And instead of feeling light and responsive, every movement begins to feel slightly delayed, as if your system is not fully supporting you. This is also why your mood begins changing more quickly than it normally would. Small situations start feeling overwhelming, and your reactions become stronger, not because of the situation itself, but because your system is already under constant internal strain. This is why even simple tasks start feeling more difficult than they should. Things that once required very little effort now feel slightly overwhelming. And instead of moving through them easily, you feel resistance at every step. And the reason all of this feels normal is because it has been happening gradually over time. But what you are experiencing right now is not your natural state. It is your body adapting to a condition that has been repeating every single day. The moment you begin making even small changes to how you move, rest, and support your body, your system starts responding almost immediately. It does not take a complete transformation or a drastic shift, but even a small correction begins signaling your body to move back toward balance. As this continues, the flow inside your system begins stabilizing, becoming more organized and less resistant than before. And instead of struggling to move forward, your internal circulation starts finding its natural rhythm again. As your flow improves, your brain begins receiving the energy it needs again, and its activity starts returning to normal. And slowly, the clarity that once felt lost begins coming back, allowing your thoughts to move more smoothly and efficiently. With this restored energy, signals inside your brain begin moving faster and more efficiently again. And instead of delay and interruption, your system starts functioning with clarity and consistency. As your internal balance returns, your body begins feeling lighter, more active, and more responsive than before. And instead of resistance, movement starts feeling natural again, as your system regains its normal function. This shows that your body is constantly responding to what you do, and it is always ready to move back toward balance when given the right conditions. And even small, consistent changes can guide your system back to the level it was always meant to function at. At this point, what you are experiencing is no longer random or unexplained. Your body is clearly responding to the patterns you repeat every single day. And everything you feel right now is a direct reflection of how your system has been functioning over time. The difference between feeling constantly tired and feeling naturally active is not something that happens by chance. It is directly connected to how consistently your body is being supported, and how often you allow your system to stay in a state that slowly pulls it away from balance. What feels like a small habit right now may not seem important in the moment, but when it repeats every day, it becomes a pattern that your body adapts to. And over time, that pattern defines how your system functions, whether it is moving toward strength or slowly shifting toward weakness. If the same pattern continues, your body will keep adapting to a lower level of performance without resistance. But the moment you interrupt that pattern, even slightly, your system immediately begins shifting back in the right direction. This means your body is not working against you. It is simply responding to what you give it every day, and the direction it moves in is not fixed. It is something you are continuously shaping with your actions. So what you do next is not just a small decision. It is something that directly shapes how your body will function moving forward. Because the same habits that slowly pushed your system away from balance can also bring it back, and your body will follow whichever direction you choose to repeat.